July 2nd, 1989. Bette Davis, 81 years old, visibly frail from the cancer killing her, walked onto The Tonight Show stage for what everyone suspected would be her final television appearance. For 20 minutes, she was vintage Bette, sharp, funny, irreverent. Then Johnny asked her about All About Eve, expecting another Hollywood anecdote. Instead, Bette went quiet, looked directly at him, and said 7 words that changed everything. "Johnny, can I tell you a secret?" What she revealed in the next 15 minutes, about the role that defined her career, about her daughter who died at 35, about the regret she'd carried for 20 years, left 18 million viewers in tears. And when it was over, Johnny Carson did something he'd never done before. He sat beside her on the couch and told her why the truth she'd been hiding didn't need to stay hidden anymore. The Tonight Show was preparing for something everyone knew would be significant, though nobody wanted to say it out loud. Bette Davis, Hollywood legend, 2-time Oscar winner, the woman who dominated cinema for 5 decades, had agreed to appear one final time. She was 81, dying of breast cancer, visibly frail. Everyone at NBC knew this would likely be her last television appearance. Johnny Carson had spent extra time preparing. He wanted to honor Bette properly while respecting her fierce independence, the quality that had defined both her career and her personality. When Bette walked onto the stage that July evening, moving slowly with a cane for support, the studio audience immediately understood they were witnessing something rare. She was wearing an elegant dress and her signature bold makeup, refusing to let illness diminish her legendary style. The audience stood before she even reached the guest chair. It wasn't the usual enthusiastic Tonight Show applause. This was deeper, more reverent. People were on their feet to honor a legend who'd given them decades of unforgettable performances. Johnny stood to greet her, taking her hand gently, helping her into the chair. For a moment, they just looked at each other. Viewers could see genuine affection and respect passing between them. "Bette Davis," Johnny said simply, his voice carrying more emotion than usual. "Thank you for being here." "Where else would I be, Johnny?" Bette replied with characteristic directness, though her voice was weaker than it once had been. "This is where the interesting conversations happen." Before we go deeper into what Bette revealed, the secret about All About Eve that nobody knew, the daughter she lost, the regret that haunted her, if you're here because you remember when Johnny Carson could make television feel like truth, subscribe to Johnny Carson Legacy Stories. We're uncovering the moments when legends stopped performing and started being human. Hit that bell. For the first 20 minutes, the interview proceeded, as many of their previous conversations had. Johnny asked Bette about her early days in Hollywood. She shared stories about fighting with studio executives, working with legendary directors, refusing to compromise her vision. She was funny, irreverent, occasionally profane, vintage Bette Davis. She told a story about battling Warner Brothers over a role, ending with her famous line, "I didn't become an actress to be liked. I became an actress to be remembered." The audience laughed and applauded, but there was something bittersweet in the moment. Everyone watching understood they were seeing Bette Davis for possibly the last time. Every story, every laugh, every gesture carried extra weight. Johnny, demonstrating the sensitivity that made him such a great interviewer, allowed Bette to control the pace and tone. He asked questions but didn't push when she paused. He laughed at her jokes but didn't treat her like she was fragile. He gave her exactly what she needed, respect and space to be herself. Then, about halfway through the interview, something changed. Johnny had just asked Bette about her most famous role in All About Eve, expecting another entertaining Hollywood anecdote. Instead, Bette grew quiet, looked directly at him with an intensity that made the studio audience lean forward. "Johnny," she said, "can I tell you something I've never said publicly before?" Johnny's face showed surprise, but he nodded. "Of course, Bette. Whatever you want to share." Bette took a breath. "I'm dying," she said with characteristic bluntness. "I know people have been speculating, but I'm telling you directly. I have cancer. The doctors say I have maybe a few months left." She paused. "I wanted to say it out loud on your show because I trust you to let me say what I need to say without making it maudlin." The studio audience gasped audibly. Johnny's professional composure faltered. Viewers could see him struggling with emotion. "Bet, he started, but she held up her hand. "Let me finish," she said gently. "I came here tonight not just to reminisce about old movies, but to tell the truth about something I've been hiding for 50 years. What Bette Davis revealed in the next 15 minutes became one of the most talked about moments in television history. "Everyone thinks my greatest role was Margot Channing in All About Eve," Bette began. "Critics still talk about that performance. It won me an Oscar nomination. People quote my lines from that movie to this day." She paused, collecting her thoughts. "But I want you to know the truth, Johnny. That role, that iconic, career-defining role, I didn't want it." Johnny looked genuinely surprised. "You turned down All About Eve?" "3 times, Bette confirmed. "I thought Margot was too close to who I really was. A fading actress worried about getting older, being replaced by younger talent. It felt too vulnerable, too exposing." She smiled sadly. "My whole career, I played strong women who didn't let anything defeat them. But Margot was different. Margot was scared. Margot was insecure. Margot was everything I spent my life pretending not to be." "So why did you finally accept the role?" Johnny asked gently. Bette's voice broke slightly. "Because someone I loved told me that vulnerability wasn't weakness. They said that showing people your fears and insecurities was the bravest thing an actress could do." She paused, visibly emotional. "That person was my daughter, Barbara. She was only 4 years old at the time, but she somehow understood what I needed to hear." Bette wiped her eyes, not caring that her makeup was smudging. She said, "Mommy, you're always strong in your movies. Maybe this time you could be real instead." Her voice cracked. "Out of the mouths of babes, right? My 4-year-old daughter gave me the best acting advice of my career." Johnny was openly crying now, making no attempt to hide his tears. "What made you think of this tonight, Bette?" Bette's answer stopped everyone's breath. "Because Barbara died of cancer 20 years ago. She was only 35 years old." She paused, letting that sink in. "And I never told her, Johnny. I never told her that she was the one who made my career-defining role possible. I never told her how much that moment meant to me." The studio audience was completely silent. Across America, millions of viewers were crying. "I'm telling you this now," Bette continued, "because I want people to understand something important. We spend so much of our lives being strong, being tough, being fearless, and those things matter. But what matters more is being honest with ourselves and with the people we love." She looked directly at the camera. "If there's someone in your life who helped you become who you are, tell them. Don't wait. Don't assume they know. Tell them while you still can." Her voice strengthened. "Because I didn't. And I've regretted it every single day for 20 years. If you're feeling what just happened, the weight of Bette's regret, the courage it took to admit it on live television, you're exactly where we want you. That's what Johnny Carson Legacy Stories is about. The moments when legends showed us that being human matters more than being perfect. Subscribe now, because these truths change lives." Johnny reached across and took Bette's hand. "Thank you for telling us this, Bette. Thank you for being so honest." "I'm 81 years old and dying, Johnny," Bette said with a hint of her old fire. "What have I got to lose by being honest now?" What happened next was spontaneous and beautiful. Johnny turned to the audience. "I think we need to do something. Bette Davis has given us decades of unforgettable performances. But tonight, she's given us something even more valuable, a reminder about what really matters in life." He stood up and started applauding. The entire studio audience followed. But this wasn't applause for an entertainer. This was applause for a human being who just shared her deepest regret and her most important lesson. Bette sat in the guest chair, tears streaming down her face, accepting the love and respect from hundreds in the studio and millions at home. For once in her legendary career, she wasn't playing a role. She was just being Bette Davis, vulnerable, honest, and finally at peace. As the interview came to a close, Johnny did something he rarely did. He came around his desk and sat next to Bette on the couch. "Bette," he said, "I want you to know that Barbara did know. Maybe not consciously, but she knew. because you took that role and you gave the performance of a lifetime. And she got to see her mother be brave enough to be vulnerable. That was her gift to you, and your gift to her." Bette nodded, unable to speak. Johnny continued, "And now you've given that same gift to everyone watching. You've shown us that it's never too late to tell the truth, to share our regrets, to let people know they mattered." When it came time for Bette to leave the stage, Johnny walked with her to the wings, holding her arm to steady her. At the last moment, before she disappeared from view, she turned back to him. "Thank you, Johnny," she said, "for letting me be real." "Thank you, Bette," he replied, "for showing us all how it's done." The response to Bette Davis's final Tonight Show appearance was unprecedented. NBC's switchboard was overwhelmed. Letters poured in by the thousands, many from people sharing their own stories of regret and reconciliation. Mental health professionals praised the interview for its honest discussion of regret, loss, and the importance of expressing love before it's too late. Grief counselors began using footage from the interview to help people process their own feelings about missed opportunities and unspoken words. The American Film Institute added the interview to their archives as an important piece of cinema history, not for what it revealed about Bette's career, but for what it revealed about the human experience. Bette Davis passed away on October 6, 1989, just 3 months after her appearance on The Tonight Show. Johnny Carson attended her memorial service and spoke about their final interview. "Bette gave me many great interviews over the years," Johnny said in his eulogy, "but that last one was different. She wasn't performing, she was teaching." He paused, emotion evident in his voice. She was reminding all of us that honesty and vulnerability are not weaknesses. They're the greatest strengths we have. Johnny looked at the gathered mourners. "She told us to tell the people we love how much they matter. So, I'm telling you now, Bette, you mattered. Your work mattered. Your honesty mattered." His voice broke. "And that 4-year-old girl who gave you the courage to be real, she knew you loved her. Trust me on that." Today, when film students study Bette Davis's career, they often watch that final Tonight Show interview alongside her greatest film performances. It's considered essential viewing, not just for what it reveals about Davis, but for what it teaches about the relationship between art and life, performance and truth, strength and vulnerability. The interview has been referenced in countless articles about dealing with regret, about expressing love before it's too late, and about the courage it takes to be honest when you have nothing left to lose. Johnny Carson later said it was one of the most important interviews of his career. "Bette gave me a lot that night," he reflected. "She gave me a story all about Eve that no one had ever heard. But more than that, she gave me, and everyone watching, permission to be vulnerable, to have regrets, and to use whatever time we have left to tell the truth." Bette Davis spent her career playing strong women who refused to show weakness. But in her final television appearance, she gave her greatest performance by doing exactly the opposite. By showing her vulnerability, her regrets, her humanity, she proved that real strength isn't about never being afraid or never making mistakes. Real strength is about acknowledging our fears and mistakes, learning from them, and sharing those lessons with others. And she taught all of us that it's never too late to tell the truth, to express love, and to let the people who matter know they made a difference, even if, like her daughter Barbara, they're no longer here to hear it. On July 2, 1989, Bette Davis walked onto The Tonight Show to say goodbye. She left having given 18 million people permission to speak their regrets, to tell their truths, and to love out loud before it's too late. And Johnny Carson, who'd interviewed thousands of guests over 30 years, sat beside her and reminded her that the love she thought she'd never expressed had been there all along. In her daughter's words, in her performance, in every vulnerable moment she'd been brave enough to share. If this story moved you, if Bette's courage and Johnny's compassion reminded you of someone you need to tell you love them, subscribe to Johnny Carson Legacy Stories right now. Hit that like button, share this with someone who made a difference in your life. And remember Bette Davis's final message: don't wait to tell people they matter. Do it now, while you still can. Because Barbara knew, she always knew. And the people in your life, they need to hear it too.